My name is Miriam Lamb-Perrone, and I am a therapist in Lompoc, California. And I am a marriage and family counselor, so I work with families, individuals, and children. My caseload right now is primarily children, but I work with a wide array of issues, including grief, loss, trauma, behavioral issues, and depression. So today we're going to talk a little bit about mindfulness and caretaking for cancer patients. And this is something that's near and dear to my heart because my mom passed away of cancer in 2013. She had breast cancer, which eventually metastasized, and it was definitely a long road. And so I'd like to pass on some tips for you, if you're a caretaker of an individual with cancer, that you can use to make the road a little bit easier for you. So today I'm going to walk you through the different stages of cancer, or the different things to expect. And then I'm going to talk about some approaches and modalities that you can potentially use when caring for your loved ones. So the first thing that I'll address is what happens when you receive the diagnosis. So you may be experiencing a wide array of emotions when you find out that your loved one has cancer. There may be shock, there may be disappointment, anger, sadness, grief, loss. You may experience everything concurrently, or you may experience different emotions as you go through the cancer journey. So I urge you to acknowledge where you're at, what you're feeling emotionally. And that's one of the things with mindfulness, is that mindfulness is about radical acceptance and really acknowledging your feelings without judgment. In fact, that's the definition of mindfulness. So in the first stage, it's important to really come up with a plan and tap into community. Tap into any support system that you have when your loved one is diagnosed. Acknowledge your feelings. And at this point, in terms of mindfulness, this is a really good time to spend about 15 minutes or half an hour to yourself each day and do something that you love. So mindfulness really can be applied to everything. So the traditional definition of mindfulness has to do with meditation, and I'm going to get a little bit more in depth into what mindfulness is. But meditation can be incorporated into anything, such as walking, jogging, sports, artwork, journaling. So spend about 15 to 30 minutes each day acknowledging your feelings and finding a way to process your feelings. Now, in terms of your loved ones, there's going to be a lot of logistics that happen. So with my mom, she basically had to go in for treatments every couple of weeks. And with her, it was a lot of shock surrounding I felt a lot of shock because she was initially diagnosed with stage 1 cancer, and then later we found out that the cancer had metastasized in a short period of time after further testing was done. So this further exacerbated the shock that I felt. So planning was really essential to get her in for treatment as soon as possible, to get her in for the chemo and the other treatments that she needed at this time. So support was very important. I eventually called upon my cousin to help support my father and I during this period of time, emotionally and during, in terms of getting her to treatment. Now later down the journey, I call this the bulk of your cancer caretaking journey, is the actual the meat of the caretaking part is when after the diagnosis happens and the person is getting their treatments. This is a very important time for you in terms of taking care of yourself. So diet is very important, making sure you have the right balance of protein and vegetables, talking to a nutritionist, making sure you get enough sleep is very important. And really at this point, mindfulness is important in terms of getting a regular practice. So at this point, I think it's important to seek out support systems, seek out groups. In some cases, or some individuals like to seek out community support systems. So churches may have resources available, or you know, there's nonprofit agencies. So really reach out during this time. Again, I recommend a practice that's regular, so you can see the benefits of the practice. And so this is a time when you need to honor yourself, and you know, that your loved one may have some questions that come up. They may wonder what it is like if they don't make it through the illness. So this is a time when you may have to have those conversations. So if you feel like you're not prepared for that, that's the time that it's very important to reach out for support, like a minister, for instance, you know, who may be able to walk you through the journey for both you and your loved one. Now, one thing I want to point out is that when someone is diagnosed with cancer, you may, and I think I already pointed this out, you may experience a whole host of emotions. So anger, guilt, all those emotions may come up. And they really vary with the way the cancer is diagnosed, the age of the person that you're caretaking for, and then also how close you are to this individual. So, for instance, if you weren't very close to the individual that you end up caretaking, that you end up being the caretaker for, you may have some resentment toward that. So again, it's important. Part of mindfulness is really acknowledging emotions. Now, at the end of the journey, as you all know, cancer ultimately results in a culmination of, you know, there's different things that the cancer can, different journeys that cancer patients take. You know, so some end up passing away, some end up recovering. There may be relapses down the road. So like in 5-10 years, some people have relapses of cancer. So all these are possibilities. And at the end of the road with the individual, again, it's important to really take advantage of not only community resources, but really tap into, and I can speak from personal experience, what does, especially if the person passes, what does death mean to you? What does death mean in terms of your spiritual practice? You know, how are you going to live without this individual? You know, are there other people that can step in and support you, especially if it's a spouse or a child that dies? You know, what does this mean? So again, mindfulness is very important. You love journaling. This may be a good time to write down thoughts about the transition. Or even artwork is, you know, another medium that you can use and employ mindfulness. And so now if the illness ends, then, you know, great, then that brings up a whole nother set of emotions. So that would be a point where you want to transition, help that person transition into their normal lifestyle, maybe be a support system for them when they get back to work. So that's another possibility. And mindfulness will be very important because, again, you'll be very busy and, you know, you'll have a lot to probably do to help that person recover and get back to the way their life was before the diagnosis. And then, of course, relapses are possible down the road. So, employing mindfulness is very important just in general, not even during a cancer diagnosis, because we never really know the curveball that life can throw us. So it's very important during each stage to honor yourself, have radical acceptance, don't judge yourself, and reach out to support systems and make sure that you take care of yourself. That's the bottom line. There's no magic formula, and honor your journey, because other people will want you to grieve or experience emotions in a particular way. It's important to understand that you're an individual and unique. So what I'm going to do first is talk about different types of mindfulness. So mindfulness has become a buzzword in Western culture lately, but in fact, it's been around for thousands of years. And it originates from Buddhist meditation. And however, it's been mainstreamed because, just for various reasons. Not everyone is a Buddhist or is receptive to Buddhist philosophy. So it's really accessible to people from all different faiths. The founder of mindfulness was Jon Kabat-Zinn, and he studied with famous Buddhist monks such as Thich Nhat Hanh. And he basically took mindfulness and put it into a Western context and offered it in short-term, I should say, like mini courses. So in other words, he came up with an 8-week format that you can employ mindfulness in your everyday life. Now, the basic format that he utilized was sitting in a very mindful way, meaning that we're not being distracted by what's going on outside of ourselves. So we're tuning into the body, tuning into awareness, and really not taking in any judgments or thoughts, negative thoughts, and negative self-talk that we potentially do on a day-to-day basis. So really tuning in and tuning out those negative emotions. Now, the nice thing about mindfulness is that even if you start to have a negative thought or judgment about yourself, you don't judge yourself for having that judgment, but rather you go back to the breath and just really tune in. So it's a sitting meditation generally. There's different variations of mindfulness. So some people do creative visualization where you're actually focusing on a particular particular scenery or a calm or safe space. There's progressive relaxation where you're actually tuning in somatically to your body, so you're tensing and releasing different muscle groups. So a lot of different variations, and you'll find that nowadays you can access mindfulness apps on your iPhone or your Droid or your tablet. So there's lots of different opportunities to tune into mindfulness. Very easy to access. Also YouTube. And if you do a Google search, you'll find an endless array of resources on mindfulness. So that's MBSR. Jon Kabat-Zinn created mindfulness-based stress reduction, which is generally targeted for illnesses. So cancer would be the perfect illness to utilize MBSR. You can do it at home. There's great books out there, like Bob Stahl has a mindfulness-based stress reduction book. There's groups in various communities that are available. And like I said, the apps. So it's a great place to start. Now, mindfulness-based cognitive therapy is very related to MBSR. The only difference is that it's done more in the therapeutic context. Again, it's a short-term therapy, but it's usually focused on depression versus stress reduction. But as we know, a lot of the times depression and stress reduction overlap. So which one is better for you? I would say it's your call. If you find that there's some sadness and depression that is part of the journey, the cancer journey, which a lot of times it is, then perhaps try out mindfulness-based cognitive therapy. And in my MBCT, they really look at, the therapist will help you look at the connection between thoughts, feelings, emotions, and resulting behaviors. So that's something that's important to remember. So really finding that linkage, which is very key to determining, how to minimize depression. So those are two very basic short-term modalities that you can use. So the next thing I want to talk about is EMDR. EMDR is eye movement desensitization reprocessing. And basically what it is that we're trying to, the purpose of EMDR is trying to find ways to balance, your brain. So the brain is a complex organ. So we're trying to find a way to look at trauma in a way that we have this traumatic event. We may see like a woolly mammoth. And a death or a cancer diagnosis can seem like a woolly mammoth. But what we're trying to do is minimize the impact of the trauma and make it more manageable. So that way we can really deal with it and step into our role as a caretaker. So EMDR involves eye movement, and it was developed by Francine Shapiro. And we don't know exactly why it works, but it involves bilateral stimulation. And in doing so, the trauma, a lot of trauma and PTSD patients have seen minimized stress and depression as a result. So if you go to an EMDR practitioner, there's various stages of EMDR. They're going to do some mindfulness with you during the process, obtain your history, and then tune in with you to see how well the eye movement is reducing your symptoms. So it's real time. So the practitioner will do the eye movement like this, and then they'll say, okay, how are your symptoms? Are they decreasing in intensity? Or are they increasing? And the goal is to get down to 0. So you don't have any symptoms by the time you leave. Now, sometimes this is not possible, so it may take multiple sessions, and it's definitely a multi-layered approach. So one, you may start out with discussing your loved one's diagnosis, and then you may start to experience feelings of guilt, and then you may start to experience feelings of resentment. So each session is geared toward different aspects of your journey. So in terms of a cancer journey, you may have several sessions. But the goal is to try to minimize the stress and the anxiety that you may feel during this time. So that's one modality that can be utilized. Another one is EFT, which is tapping on various meridians. And that is very related to EMDR. In fact, they can be done together. So I know of someone who actually uses the bilateral stimulation, but she uses the EFT tapping sequence and the bilateral concurrently. So EFT comes from Chinese acupuncture, and it's basically tapping on various meridians. And again, the same idea is trying to calm your body, and basically allow the body to gently, kind of modulate feelings, modulate emotions, and really get in tune with your inner wisdom. So there is, a thinking component to it, like you're thinking of a particular issue that you're dealing with, but you're really allowing the tapping to help regulate the body and into feeling calm, basically, to make it very simple. So there are EMDR and EFT practitioners that are available to your, in major cities, and it's becoming more and more popular throughout the country. I don't recommend doing EMDR and EFT at home because they pull up sometimes in a session, you'll pull up a lot of unprocessed emotions, and it's good to have a practitioner there to help you deal with the emotions and not process them on your own. Now, I am aware that there are applications on the iPhone for EMDR. I'm not sure about EFT, but I highly recommend seeing a practitioner first and then, utilizing the app at a later time, just to make sure that you're able to process and modulate emotions on your own. So those are two modalities. Now, another useful modality is Reiki, which is a hands-on energy healing process. And again, it comes from a Japanese spiritual practices. However, it's been mainstreamed in the West, so it's not associated with any particular religious practice. However, with any of these practices, if you have spirituality that you'd like to incorporate into them, you certainly can do so. Reiki is basically using hands-on, it's hands-on energy work, basically. And in Reiki practice, the body is seen as not just the physical body that you see, but there's different bodies that you have, energetic bodies, so emotional bodies that extend beyond the physical. So when you go to a Reiki practitioner, they're going to put their hands on you, or sometimes you can, they won't put their hands on you, but they'll put their hands above you. And that, they're basically, the energy is coming through them. to you. So they're like the portal for the energy, and they're passing that on to you. And basically, a lot of people feel a sense of calm and relief, through this energy work. The energy worker can point out to you different areas that appear to be blocked energetically. And normally in one session, you can see some relief. Sometimes you need multiple sessions, just as in the other approaches that I discussed, like EMDR and EFT. So that's another resource available to you. You can do Reiki on yourself. However, it's suggested that you receive an attunement first before you do it on yourself. Although there's mixed emotions available to you that you can utilize, but it's best to get the attunement first, so you kind of see what you're getting yourself into and see what it feels like on the receiving end. Now, essential oils are another modality or approach that you can use. So essential oils are very popular, and they're not just for, scents and sprucing up your room, but rather for really regulating emotions and modulating emotions. So they can be used in baths. So a popular bath to use for stress reduction is warm water, Epsom salt, baking soda, and lavender, or another essential oil. So that's another thing that you may want to incorporate into your practice. And I actually have a list. I was actually looking up different essential oils here, and I have a list here. I don't have them memorized, but I wanted to point out some that you can use, and point out some facts to you here. So for stress, what do you use for stress? So lavender, clary sage, chamomile, and sandalwood. Depression, what essential oils are good for depression? Lemon, grapefruit, sandalwood, and orange. For sleeplessness, lavender, valerian, chamomile, and clary sage are very useful. And for mood, lemon, lavender, rosemary, and orange are good essential oils to use. And I have some statistics here that nearly 60% of caregivers rate the emotional stress of caregiving as high or very high, and 40% suffer from depression. So this is an article here on caregiving that I found. Of course, there's lots of statistics out there, but that probably rings true for a lot of people that are, going through the caretaking journey, that depression, stress, anxiety are some of the key emotions that come up for you. So essential oils can be very useful. You can use a drop and, put it on some of your acupressure points, on your neck or wrist where you would put perfume or cologne, or you can put them in a bath or diffuser in your room so you have the scent coming to you all day. So really, just see if this is something that resonates with you, and it's another approach that you can use. So there is one other thing that I would like to talk about, and that is, how do you get started with mindfulness? So the best thing, and I'm going to actually take you through a sample mindfulness exercise right now. So the best thing is to, look at your local resources in your town, go online, see if there's any centers that offer mindfulness classes. Where I used to live in the Bay Area, there were churches, nonprofit organizations, spiritual centers, hospitals were amongst some of the places that offered mindfulness classes. And keep in mind that there's also mindfulness classes for the cancer patient as well. A lot of hospitals are offering Reiki. I know when my mom was going through a cancer journey, the hospice care that she participated in offered Reiki for the individual that had the cancer diagnosis. So a lot of times if you do a search in your community, you'll find resources for both you, the caretaker, and the cancer patient themselves. A book is a good way to get started as well. And what I can do is provide, if any of you have questions, I'll provide my information at the end of the session here, and I can provide my email so you can contact me if you have any questions about books or resources, and I'd be happy to email you a resource list. So what I would like you to do, I'm going to invite you to tune in with me to a meditation, a sample meditation. And what I'm going to show you is a body scan. And that's one of the most simple meditations that you can do. So the first thing that's very important is to be in a space with no distractions and to be in a place where you really, to be in a place emotionally, or to be in a place where you feel like you're going to emotionally be able to calm yourself down. So just to be in a room that you may light some candles, you may want to put on some light music. So we're really going to try to tune into our body and calm the body down. Now, the most important thing with mindfulness is the breath. So we're going to breathe from the stomach. So we're going to take deep breaths in through the solar plexus area, through the seat of the belly, because the stomach is seen as the modulator of emotions. So a lot of feelings get stuck in this area. So anytime there's judgment or anything that is bothersome to you, you're going to tune into the breath. So tune into the breath if you get distracted. So what we're going to do is close your eyes. The first thing is to close your eyes or have your eyes at a soft gaze. So you're not really focusing on anything in the room in particular, but you're going to let your eyes just kind of go into a kind of just a soft gaze. And we're going to start with the top of the head. And I'm going to invite you to tune in to what's going on in your head. So how does your head feel? Are there any sensations in your head? Is there warmth? Is there coolness? So we're just noticing. We're not analyzing or thinking, but we're not judging. We're just noticing what's going on with the head. And if there's any tension in the head, I want to invite you to let it melt away. And you can have it melt away into the earth or into a safe space where it's no longer going to violate you. So just let all the energy go, any stuck energy or any energy that doesn't serve you well. We're going to let it go. Then I want you to tune into your face, the muscles in your face, the jaw, the forehead. A lot of times we carry tension in the face that we're unaware of. So one by one, I want you to let your muscles relax. The jaw relax, the forehead. And again, noticing any sensations, any temperature changes, anything that's going on with your face. A lot of times we don't even notice the face, but yet it's the part of us that faces out to the world every day. It's the first thing people see when they acknowledge us. So letting go of any tension that may be held within the face. And then I want to go on to the neck. And the neck is also a key player in the seat of where emotions are stored. So a lot of times clients I work with who have trouble voicing their opinions or who are afraid to use their voice end up with tightness in the neck. So tune into your neck. Notice the sensations, or is there tightness? Are there any other feelings that come about when you tune into your neck? And if there's anything that does not serve you, or does not feel right, that does not feel like it belongs in the body, I want you to let it go. Let it go. And then we're going to tune into the chest. This is another hot spot for stress, particularly stress and anxiety, get stuck in the chest. So a lot of people have trouble breathing, or they don't feel like their breath is flowing all the way through them. So if this is the case, I invite you to continue breathing through the belly and focusing less on breathing through the chest, because a lot of times when we breathe through the chest, we get constricted breathing, not full flowing breathing. And I want you to consciously imagine any stress in the chest melting off you, melting away into a safe space, or going into the earth, or going someplace that is not affecting you. And if any parts of the body, when we go through this exercise, if any parts of the body do feel particularly balanced, you can thank them. Thank them for rejuvenating you, and thank them for being in balance. So now we're going to move down to the stomach, which is also in Reiki and other modalities is known as the solar plexus area. And again, as I mentioned, this is the seat of emotions. So a lot of emotions get stored in the stomach. So sometimes we do have stomach problems, but sometimes we have problems that end up in the stomach. So the physical, emotional, and spiritual are all connected. And so a lot of times non-physical problems end up causing physical problems, or they may not actually cause a problem, but they cause imbalance. So tune into your stomach and notice, how is your stomach treating you? And are there any knots? Are there any sensations, any temperature changes, anything that feels different or odd, or is in fluctuation in your stomach area? So tune in to that. And if there's anything that doesn't suit you or does not feel right, I invite you to let it go. And sometimes you can imagine energy just flowing out of the body. You can actually push energy out of the body. So this is a technique that you can learn the more and more you do mindfulness. So just imagine it flowing, like as if there were like a little hole, and the energy could just flow out of that hole into somewhere that's outside of yourself. And then I want you to move down to your legs. And the legs are like a root system of a tree. So they hold you upwards and they take you from place to place. So thank them for taking you to place to place, from place to place. And starting with your thighs, tune in. Notice how they feel. Are they tired? Are they stressed? Are they feel heavy? Do they feel light? Just noticing any sensations, any temperature fluctuations. If there's anything that doesn't feel good to you, I want you to release it with a deep breath and let it go. Let it go. And then we'll move down to the calves. Again, sometimes tightness in this area. So notice, how are you feeling? And ask the same questions that were asked of the thighs. How are your calves doing? Are they tight? Are they loose? Do they feel heavy? Just notice without judgment. Remembering to breathe. And sometimes you can breathe into parts of the body that are tight. And then we're going to move down to the feet, slowly down to the feet. Notice how they feel in your shoes if you have your shoes on. You can always feel free to take your shoes off, but do they feel constrained? So wiggle your feet around in the shoes. Do they feel relaxed? And notice all the different parts to your feet. So the toes, the heel, the ankles, the arch, the top of the feet. Just notice how they're doing. And give them permission to release anything that is not working for them. And remembering to breathe. That's one of the most important parts of this exercise. And if you find yourself going into a place of of judgment, go back to the breath, not judging yourself for judging, but rather going back to the breath, releasing any guilt, anxiety, anger, any sensations and emotions that don't suit you. We're going to let them go. We're going to blow them away. And we're going to get in touch with the part of you that existed probably back to when you were a child, or even before you were a young child, a baby, when you weren't so affected by the ways of the world and all the different things that come into our environment that affect us emotionally. And so then I want you to go on to the back of your body. So we're going to do the back of the head. And again, tune into thought, or tune into sensations rather. We're not tuning so much into thoughts here, but into sensations, feelings, emotions. So tune in, notice, breathe. And if there's anything going on with your head, any tingling sensations, anything like that that feels negative or like it doesn't suit you, I want you to let it go. And then we're going to go to the back of the neck. And again, this is correlated a lot of times with shoulder pain or shoulder tension. So just tune it into it. You can massage those muscles in here lightly. No deep massage unless you're a massage therapist and you know the exact points. But you can lightly touch the neck. Just notice how it feels. Tune into any sensations. Anything associated with it. And if there's anything negative that you want to let go of, this is the time to do it. Just let go. And during this exercise, you can replace the negative thought with any positive thought, sensation, or, if there's a place that you have that's a special place. So for me, it's the beach. So, you can definitely add some visualization into this exercise, or you can, bring a word in that signifies peace. So definitely bring in other types of meditation, but we're really tuning into the body. So then I want you to go to the back of the your back. So the back side of your back, which is your back, and just tune into the top of the back, the middle, and the lower portion of your back, noticing what you feel. And a lot of times when we feel stretched in any way, whether it be financially or emotionally, or we don't feel supported, these types of issues tend to yield back issues. Not always, but a lot of times that they're correlated. So think about, as a caretaker, who is supporting you? And where can you turn to get the support you need? And when do you know when to call it quits? How do you employ boundaries? So you can have your own free time and you can have time to rejuvenate. So tuning into the back, noticing any sensations, any negative, anything negative you feel in the back, and releasing, relaxing, and remembering to breathe. And then we'll move on to the buttocks, the glutes, whatever you want to call them. But we sit on our bottom all day, and there's a lot of tension that builds up into this area. And so it's a, area that stores a lot. So just tuning into the muscles there, noticing any sensations, noticing any tightness. And if there's anything that doesn't suit you, just let it go and relax, remembering to breathe. And then we're going to do the back of the legs. The back of the legs, the back of the thighs, the back of the calves. And again, tune into the energy, the feeling of this root system, of your tree. This is what holds you up. So how is it doing? How do your muscles feel? And you can touch them if you need to. You can gently touch the different areas of your body. Noticing, releasing, breathing, and relaxing are very important. So release anything that doesn't suit you in this part of your body. And then you can go to the back of your feet and thank them. Thank them for carrying you from place to place over the course of the day. And thank them for getting you around so that you can help nourish others, that you can go about your day. So before we finish, I want you to imagine your body all together as a whole system that works together in harmony. And I invite you to put a bubble around the body and thank it for doing everything it does to nourish us, sustain us, and to help us help other people. And ask it if there's anything that it needs. And if there is anything it needs, take note of that. And if you were doing this exercise at home, if it says, oh, I need some more relaxation in my chest or my head, then go back to that area again and re-nourish it until you achieve a state of complete relaxation. But for the purpose of this exercise, we're just going to start to end the exercise, but I want you to put a bubble around your body as a shield of protection. And it's not a shield that acts as a barrier, but rather as something that protects you energetically from all the influences that you may encounter in the world. And it serves as a reminder to know that there's boundaries in everything we do, and including caretaking. Boundaries are very important. So put that bubble around your body. You can choose a color that resonates with you. And if there's any part of the body that felt particularly relaxed during this meditation, you can bring the energy of that part of the body into a part that does not feel relaxed. And then we're going to throw out any negative energy into that safe space or into the earth or any place that we want to keep it away from us. We're going to do one final release of all that negative energy. And you can imagine it as a particular shape or color, or use metaphor. Like think of a particular object that negative energy reminds you of. And we're just going to throw it out. We're going to throw it out and know that it doesn't have to remain part of us. It may come back, but it doesn't have to remain part of us permanently. It's a temporary fixture. And then I want you to say to yourself one thing that honors your body. So, like an affirmation. And affirmations are very powerful if we believe them. And I encourage you, if you're a caretaker, to have an affirmation, a daily affirmation or a weekly affirmation that gets you through your journey. So say an affirmation to yourself. And after you do that, we're slowly going to come back into the room. We're going to do it slowly. And we're going to try to stay in a place of relaxation. When we come back into our normal awareness, and the whole purpose of this is living in the moment. So we're going to try to come back into a place where we feel like we're living in the moment and we're able to cope with what life has handed us and know that this is just part of our journey. It's not a permanent part of our journey. It is a challenge, but it is something we can cope with, and we have the power within us to deal with it and to help our loved one in a caring, kind, and compassionate way so that they can get through their journey, however that journey may unfold. So let's slowly come back into the room, coming into that mindful place of non-judgment, of accepting ourselves and releasing any feelings that don't serve us. So slowly come back. You can slowly remove the soft gaze or your eyes. If your eyes are closed, you can slowly open them up. And after this exercise, what I recommend is going into a walking meditation, which is where you actually pay attention to each part of your gait. So you're like, when you raise your foot, when you put your foot on the ground, when you swing your arms, there's different parts to when you walk around. So we think of just walking as walking, but there's actually us taking our foot up, one foot after the other. And walking is like a metaphor for life. A journey of 1,000 miles starts with a single step is a common saying. So, knowing that this is a journey. So using walking meditation as a metaphor. And again, if you do walking meditation, it's good to, again, focus on the breath, which is what, the seat of emotion. So bring yourself back to the breath anytime you feel stressed or you have these emotions that come upon you that are negative. So that's a general overview of different things you can do in your journey. Okay, so I have some books here that you may be interested in. As promised, I was reaching for the books and I have them here now. So the first book is called Reiki. And this is an excellent guide on Reiki. It's called actually Reiki, an Ancient Hands-On Healing Technique. And I love this book because it's very visual. It has pictures and techniques, and it gets into the chakra systems, as you can see here, the different energetic bodies. Very useful guide, and it's a really good first-time primer or a refresher for those of you that are already attuned to Reiki. So very good in terms of treating both the front side and the back side of your body, and it gives a good history on Reiki as well. As I mentioned, it is good to see a Reiki practitioner before you start doing it at home. Sometimes deep emotions will come up for you, so it's good to know how to be able to deal with those. And also it's good to receive an attunement to see if Reiki is a modality that you think that you resonate with. So the second book is not as popular. However, it is very special to me because it's a book that my mother got for me as a Christmas gift. This is called Touch for Health. And it's a practical guide to natural health with acupressure touch. This is a very thorough book and manual. It's not quite technical, but it gets into the various acupressure meridians of the various parts of the body. Very useful guide. And what's nice about this is you as the caretaker may need to utilize this book with another person. So this would allow you to reach out to one of your support system members to help you actually do the acupressure points. So another useful guide, very hands-on, So this would be if you had a lot more time on your hands, which you may not. However, the nice thing about this book is you can focus on one part of the body. So if there's a particular part of the body that is bothering you, like the back, you can kind of go into that part. However, keep in mind that all parts of the body are related. So this book goes into depth about that as well. So 2 good resources, and again, go to your local library, go to Amazon, go to your app store to get more information on mindfulness resources, EMDR, EFT, essential oils, and anything that we spoke about today. So if you have any questions, please contact me. I am a practitioner, again, located in Lompoc. My email, once again, is Lamb, L-A-M-B, Miriam, M-I-R-I-A-M, 77@gmail.com, and I would be happy to give you any resources and any just general advice on your caretaking journey. So thank you very much, and many blessings to you.